Hi Mark, I'm gonna take a look at your swing. I saw a few things that really can help. There is a few things going on with your spine that I think need refinement. There is also, sorry, I cut my finger. There is also a few things in Clubface management and upper body, wrist and forearm moves, but I think you could focus on the spine first. I think there are things that you cannot overcome really. So let's start with setup. I like your grip. The grip is strong, which is okay. The only thing that I think you should address is maybe just make sure you don't set the club too much diagonally like this in the palm. Try to have it still a bit more perpendicular, not really completely diagonal, because I really see a ton, even if it's strong. I mean, I see a ton of your left hand like so. So it's setting up in UD right away, and it could because it changes the relationship between the right hand and the left hand. I'm not really fond of this kind of grip, so try to get a little bit more perpendicular. You can stay strong, it's not really a problem, but I think you're a bit too much like that. That's just one thing. For setup, make sure, I mean, you are strong. I mean, we definitely don't want internal rotation on this right shoulder, but at the same time, we don't want it to be completely in external rotation, because what it does is that in the takeaway you kind of bend the right elbow pretty quick, and it gets you into this kind of takeaway position. So you are very much in external rotation and keep it that way. And because I mean it just makes the way you hinge the club a bit strange, and there is a ton of right elbow early flexion. You can see it from face on. So here, as you can see here, it's already pretty bent with effects on the left elbow actually, and here we can see that it's not really something we see in all the greats. You're very much like externally rotated with supination and like already kind of bending the right elbow. So I think it's coming from your setup. Try to be a little bit more. I mean, of course, don't go internal rotation here, but try to be a little bit more neutral, not so much in ER, external rotation address. I think that will help, just having more of an upper body turn and less of a quick early right elbow hinge. I think that's something that's not really suiting you well. So yeah, just slightly more internal, and then you will have an easier time keeping your width. The other thing that I would address is exactly that, is the way you lose width a bit early, and we can see that at the top of the backswing, your left elbow ends up in quite a bit of flexion. I mean, it's not like you have to have it super straight, like locked like that, but yeah, it sets a few things out of position, and it certainly doesn't suit your pattern right now. Yeah, as you can see here, I mean, left elbow gets into a very bent position. So I don't know if you had elbow issue or fracture or something. Some people have that restriction, but I don't think you have it because you're pretty straight at rest, so you can do it. So all in all, these two things are in the same direction. I would advise you, Neil, it's gonna be easier for the camera position, to keep your width. Don't be super extended like that. You don't need to. But yeah, a little bit more torso rotation. The right elbow, the right shoulder, sorry, staying kind of internally rotated, with arms staying a little bit more straight, and you start to bend, but from like here to here, and you end up in. Just try to shoot for less than 90 degree. We can see that your right elbow is bending really a ton, and that's not helping you. You can see this angle. I mean, it's pretty narrow. Of course, there is 2D distortion there, but I mean, we can see that it's very much bent. So it's not loading, it's not making you use the spine properly. It's making you very narrow at the top and then extending. And with what happens in the next segments that I'm going to describe, it's not really functional for you. Yeah, I was going to that. You suffer from a little bit of an over the top move at the start of the downswing. If you look closely, this shoulder is going to get from retracted to protracted quite early. Here it's already, I mean, it's, if you picture your, sorry, I'm not a good drawer, but if you picture here, armpit there, you have the scap sitting on the thoracic spine there, and it can glide away from the spine. It can glide towards the spine. It can go up, down. It can also have rotations. Right now, what's happening is at the go ahead, draw the right scap. Right now, sorry. Right now, your right scap is shooting in this direction very early, like that in the early transition. So we can see a ton of this part of your back here on the left. Sorry. Well, I really should try to get another way to set up. Anyway, you can see a ton of this and not so much this position, which would be retracted in transition. As you know, the spine going from left lateral bend to right lateral bend with scap staying retracted. So you don't have to protract a ton and then retract a ton. It's not like we want to throw something, but this early retraction and then protraction is not helping you. So yeah, it's all going in the same direction. I mean, if you don't have this kind of crazy ER at setup, early bend, and then you won't retract that much. So it's all tied. Yeah, you're losing lag. I mean, from this view, we can see that you kind of create your lag in the backswing and then release it very early. Here you can see the club is just thrown away from you. So that makes a ton of things harder. If you look at ice skaters, when they want to slow down their rotation, they just extend the arms, and when they want to accelerate it, they go like this. Basically, when you throw the club, it makes a vicious cycle in which the MOI and all the momentum of the club is thrown away from the center of rotation and makes you slow down even more. So yeah, if you have that protraction to retraction, you actually decrease the momentum. If you go from left lateral bend to right lateral bend, you make things closer to you and you can rotate faster and keep lag for longer. So yeah, that's something I would address. Also, something that's tied to the spine moves and the scapula moves is the way the club face behaves in transition. So we can see that your right wrist is kind of, for lack of better word, it's quite flat. I mean, it's neutral, it's not extended or flexed, and it's a bit moving into the supination. And you end up with a club face. I mean, I would need a little bit better resolution and maybe more frames, but you can see that it's quite open and it's getting more and more open as you go along. So here, very open, and here it's even more open. So it's all in all going in the same direction, and the thing is that with this kind of a flat wrist and supination, you end up in this position, and from there you have no choice but to continue the flip to square the club face. So you don't have this kind of pronation extension on the right wrist and supination flexion on the left wrist. These moves are capturing lag, if you will, along with everything else. And for you, it's moving in the other direction, chopping wood kind of thing, with an open face. So I would also work on that. The last thing we can see on the end of the backswing is that you are losing a bit of your angles here, and it's happening of course in the downswing, but it's also happening at the end of the backswing. Like here, you can see that you have lost already a little bit of your angles. There are a few moves that could make the trunk balance go towards the ball, and these two are right lateral bend, typically. That will make you lose the touch line. If you right lateral bend, you go into here, but that's not really what's happening in your swing. It's more spine extension. Spine extension means you have the torso going under you, and if you still keep your angles and everything, you're going to lose balance. So that's not really what's happening. I see more spine extension problem than really a right lateral bend problem, because you are going up in the backswing. The head is going up. The hip is not really too far down. The left heel rises, so it's not really right lateral bend. The shoulder are still steep, so there is not a ton of right lateral bend. Actually, you're not going into that direction, but we could say that you are going into a little bit too much spine extension, and that has consequences for the rest of your swing. What happens when you do that is that you kind of stretch. If you extend the spine like so, like this, and if you don't have really left lateral bend, so if you don't have a very high left hip, what happens is that it will stretch the left oblique here, and then it will want to fire. So it's all in all the same pattern. It's basically being too extended. Left oblique gets stretched, and then it wants to fire. So it's going in the same direction as every move, like protraction, open face, and then over the top move. So try to stay really into this left lateral bend, and try to not extend the spine too much. That's something that will give you a little bit less of an over the top move in transition. You will also benefit from the rebound from left lateral bend into right lateral bend, and that allows you to have separation between the pelvis and the shoulders. If you have the other way around, you have a torso that's rotating really early, and from there you really cannot separate the pelvis and the shoulders. On the downswing, well, it's all consequences, so I won't really describe this. You keep losing the touch line. I mean, you have no other choice. I mean, this pattern of extension and fire and the protraction and everything really makes it impossible to create left hip depth. So you keep losing the touch line, and in a way, you kind of use the left hip as the pivot, with the right hip having no other choice to rotate than to rotate in this direction. What we would like is having this hip as the center of rotation and this hip clearing. This will make space for your pelvis. Your pelvis is an oval shape, so if you rotate it, it's way wider from this angle, from down the line. If you rotate the pelvis, because it's oval shape, to here, it takes way more space than if you are kind of squarish at impact. So in order to be rotated, and you need to create left hip depth. To do that, you have the left hip to turn around this kind of fixed pivot and have the left hip create depth. Right now it's not what's happening. It's more like the left hip doesn't want to move away from the ball, and the right hip clearing in that direction, and that's why you keep losing the touch line. Because of that, you don't have a ton of space, and you have to extend the arms, and it's all matching in order to have good geometry. But yeah, it would be easier if that hip was flexing, and that hip was the center of the pivot. With right lateral bend to right lateral bend, this hip stays in place, and this left hip can create depth, so you can stay in your spine angle, have a nice separation between the the pelvis and the shoulders and create and conserve your legs. So all in all, I mean, it's all going in the same direction. Yeah, I think there's a few fixes that you could try to implement. A lot of things won't be like instant fixes. It's gonna have to move in the right direction. Sometimes improving one move will make another move benefit from it, even if you don't think about it. So yeah, just pick one of these things, the move that you understood better, the move that you think you can create, and then exaggerate it and film and see if that has consequences in other parts of your backswing, downswing, and send me other videos. I'm gonna show you a few players that do what I advise well, and getting back to you in a sec. Okay, so I'm gonna show you Keegan and then Bubba for a few reasons. The grip is still strong. His right hand is a little bit less strong than yours. What you can see is that the right elbow pit is looking here. It's not really looking towards us. So that's the first thing that you could implement. What you can see here is that the torso rotates quite a bit while the right elbow stays kind of, I mean, it's a little bent, but it's not bending more. We're going to take a look at Bubba now for a number of reasons again. So here you can see that these arms are kind of straight, and he already has quite a bit of torso rotation here. And the other thing that he's doing well is keeping the pelvis high, the left hip high, so his pelvis is quite level. It's not tipping down like so. He's not letting the left hip sag down. And that, coupled with quite steep shoulders, mean his spine is going that way, so it's left lateral bend. And he's going to benefit from that because he's going to rebound from left lateral bend to right lateral bend. And it's kind of the anti over the top move. So that's something that you could benefit from. Keegan is a really good example for that too, and you can really see the rebound when it happens in transition. Here again you can see quite a high left hip and steep shoulders, even if it's a fairway wood, so that's pretty impressive to be able to do that with woods and driver. It gets harder, but he manages this. So quite a left lateral bend, and then a rebound from left lateral bend to right lateral bend after that. So it's really the anti over the top move, and it allows you basically to have the pelvis and the shoulders to work on different planes. That's because of right lateral bend, and as you can see, he has a ton of space. He has rooms for his right elbow to stay bent. He can conserve lag, and that's pretty much all we want in this game. What Keegan is also showing, I mean, there are a ton of reasons why he's not as long on his backswing than what Bubba would do. I'll show you Bubba, who goes past parallel typically. Bubba has more pelvic turn, he has more spine extension, but I would not take Bubba as a model for you because you already have a lot of spine extension. So that's why I didn't choose to show you Bubba from face on. There's a reason for that. So for Keegan, here at the top he conserves quite a bit of spine flexion. So here I think we should aim for like supposedly 14 to 17 degrees. He's at 15. JB Holmes is also a good model, even though he doesn't have as much left lateral bend at the top. But yeah, try to stay in this kind of position. If you really try to create left lateral bend and you are disciplined enough with it, you will stay in spine flexion, which will be good for you right now. Okay. I think that's pretty much it. So keep your width. As you can see, it's not completely straight, but it's not as bent as you are. And for the right elbow, you can see that it's bending, sure, but it's not really getting a ton past 90 degrees. So yeah, a ton of really backswing thoughts. And then I'm going to give you a few drills that you can implement, so you can make the changes at the rate you want, and just pick one move and see if that gives you good benefits in terms of ball striking, contact, and such, and if it's really matching your pattern. So pick one of these moves, one of these drills, and just work from there, using video, of course, every time. Okay, I'm back. What you can do, if you happen to have some elastic bands, don't try to have something that's too tight. You have to have room, and just feel like you're stretching the band. The band is attached to my left heel. Then it goes around me on the back. Then it gets into almost just the middle of my right thigh here. Don't put it here, otherwise it's gonna snap into your back. Try to get it in front of the right pocket. The challenge is to, I mean, the band wants to make you go here and have a very low right shoulder, and you really want to fight that, but with your spine. You want your spine to be curved that way, so that elastic band is stretched, so you have a high left hip, very level pelvis, and tilted shoulders. If you do that, the band will feel tensed, and then you will get the nice rebound. Actually, the elastic band will do it for you, so you can have this good flattening move that we are looking for, and not the other way around, which would be extended right lateral bend and then over the top. So that's a good thing. There is a way to cheat that, actually. If you flex your right hip and just sit into your right glute, it's not going to be good. It's going to tense it, but it's not going to be good. So you have to have right hip staying extended, not really have this angle get narrower. You stay into right hip extension, and then you flex in transition. That's how you're going to pivot around kind of this right hip as a pivot and create depth on the downswing. So that's a very good exercise to feel what needs to happen. The other thing is, everything we said on the scapula. So if you raise the scap and protract it, if you have these two moves on the takeaway, typically you will end up with a right arm that's straighter, and then it will bend later. But right now you're going retraction, a ton of ER, and elbow bend. That's your pattern, and we're gonna try to do that kind of move. So the arms will stay straighter. I'm pretty sure it will do this on its own. Last thing, yeah, for club face management, right now you're pretty much going very flat with that wrist, and you don't have really this pronation extension that will help. This is not ideal. There are actual elastic bands, like something that's very wide. It can be easier to circle it around your forearms. You can do it on the left or the right, whatever. Here's where I could do it. So here, just make a little loop, and then you go. Should be easy. Then you go. Sorry. There. You go over, under, over, under, over, under. It's way more practical with another wider elastic band. So this band actually wants me to supinate and have my wrist flexed, but this is exactly what we don't want, actually, in transition. So the goal is to fight that bend and have it tense up. If I do this and extension, it's actually tensing up the bend. The other move would be to quit on this and have a supinated, flat, and flex wrist with, which you imagine with UD, which is a very casty way to get back on the ball. So unfortunately right now it's kind of what you are doing. So this move with the elastic band would give you awareness on what moves need to actually happen on downswing. So this is exactly the position I described. Very flat, supinated, and ulnar deviated. So yeah, this little drill for the forearms, just wrapping it around and trying to force it into supination flexion, and you have to fight it in transition, will give you that lag retention movements, and coupled with that pattern of scap protraction to retraction. That's how you will be able to keep your angles, keep lag, and ultimately have a better ball striking. So I hope it helped. It was a very long video. Sorry, I hope it was interesting enough for you and that you will use it for the best. If you have any questions, of course, send me a video or an email or anything. Cheers, have a nice day.